So it's my great pleasure to introduce you to episode 2 of Coaching Conversations with me. I'm Amantha King, and I would like you to give a very warm welcome to my guest today, Rupinder Kaur. Rupinder is an award-winning coach, and she's the founder of Asian Women Mean Business. Asian Women Mean Business is an online, offline community for Asian women. So without further ado, hello Rupinder, how are you?
Hi, Amantha. I'm great. Thank you for having me on. Delighted to be here.
Oh, well, the pleasure is all mine, I can assure you. So for viewers who are new to the Coaching Conversation series, this is an opportunity for you, the viewer, to get to know a bit more about the diversity that exists within the field of coaching. And Rupinder is particularly interesting because she has an amazing business. Would you like to tell the viewers a little bit more about your business, Rupinder?
Yes, of course. Thank you. So Asian Women Mean Business is a community, a network that I founded 6 years ago. And really it was in response to the fact that I felt that there wasn't anything like this in existence. And sometimes you have to, when you're craving something and you want to be a part of a certain community, you have to create what you want to be a part of. So we are championing, connecting and celebrating South Asian women, both online and offline. And we, online, we're featuring them on our platform. We're showcasing what women in our community are doing when they step into their purpose and follow their light. So there's lots of inspirational content where I'm organising workshops, and I've got a coaching program. And more recently, we've launched our Inspire Monthly Club, which is our online membership club. So really, it's kind of an opportunity for women to get inspiration and see what we can do when we put our minds to it, but also then getting the tools and access to the coaching and the community that can make that happen.
And that's so important, isn't it? I mean, brilliant description of your business. I mean, for those viewers, take a look at Rupinder's profile on LinkedIn. It is absolutely amazing. And it's colourful. We were just talking about that, weren't we? You absolutely love your flowers and your colour. And I just smile whenever I come to your page, and whenever your page features on my feed. It's absolutely lovely. And I think that's so important, isn't it? To be able to give that support to each other, to be there for each other, and to provide that platform, like you say, when it was missing. I mean, that's a really bold move from you. I mean, when did you first realise? I mean, what was the moment that you thought, right, I'm going for it?
So it was a few years ago when so probably 10 years ago actually, when I set up my freelance HR and coaching business. And I was going to a lot, so the world of networking and a business has changed so much in this last decade, but at that time I was going to a lot of physical networking events, and I was really missing that sense of community and that sense of belonging. And I spent 6 months looking for it because I didn't feel bold enough or brave enough to create it. So actually it was easier to be part of something that someone else has created. But then I remember looking around, doing my research, and there was nothing. Thankfully, actually, things have moved along considerably. And then I just thought, no, I'm going to go for it. And the first thing I did was, we've just talked about LinkedIn, and that's how we've connected, was I created a LinkedIn group, and just to kind of do my market research and see if there was a need for it. And then it just grew from there, and more women were coming on board. More women were saying, yes, we need this. Because, and when we talk about this a little bit further on, it's about being your authentic self. And so when you were saying even about my LinkedIn profile, I know people can get a bit funny about LinkedIn, and there's always the whole thing around this and Facebook, but why can't you just be who you are on all platforms? And yes, there might be a slight tweaking of the message and the language, but why can't we be colourful? Why can't I be my authentic self? Why can't I talk about the things that I want to talk about on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, without having to temper it? And yes, that's and women who are drawn to that and to me find themselves being part of this community that I've created.
Yeah, and it's that whole thing, isn't it, about shared value. So really, your step into coaching came through your previous roles in various industries.
Yeah. So my background is, I have a degree in psychology and a master's in HR and human resources. And I have built a career, a very successful career in human resources, and I still dabble in that. So I've been in HR for 18 years. And I spent the beginning part of my career, my mid-career, working for American organizations. So I worked for Coca-Cola, I worked for Yum Brands. Yum Brands owned Pizza Hut and KFC and some various other American brands. So probably 15 years ago, when very traditional English and British businesses were still part of the personnel police, I was working for organizations that had evolved, that were bringing in this coaching model that was hugely successful in the world of sport. And so I was working for businesses and organizations that were able to demonstrate the success of coaching in the business world, and they were bringing that over into the UK offices of those organizations. And what we saw was just an incredible leap in performance, in motivation, in morale, when we started to flip the model from that dictatorial personnel police and we're here to tell you what to do, to a very much a business partnering approach, to a coaching model. You know, we could see the impact it was having on our bottom line. We could see the impact it was having on our sickness records. We could see the impact it was happening, you know, when we were doing employee feedback surveys. Because finally, what we were doing was passing back to our senior leaders and their teams to say, actually, we're here to help you facilitate your performance. We're here to help you bring out your absolute potential by asking the right questions, by adopting this coaching culture. So I did that for 10 years. And then when I had my daughter, who's going to be 9, I decided I didn't want to go back into the corporate world, but I really wanted to just spend some time freelancing. And I launched my own boutique HR consultancy and coaching. I had I did a coaching diploma. I had to document, you know, 200 hours of coaching, and that was really important to me. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that was important to me. But you know, some of my peers were saying to me, "You don't need to do that. You've got a psychology degree. You've got a master's. You've been doing this for 10 years." But it was really, really important that I had that accreditation and was able to demonstrate that I've got this experience and the hours. And so that's how my journey into coaching, and then that expanded and grew. And I've always been drawn to my sense of community and women that look like me, because traditionally South Asian women wouldn't normally access things like coaching. It's not something that they would be aware of. It's not something that they would necessarily invest in. So I wanted to normalize that and just bring myself to it, to say, you know, people have coaches, people have access coaching, they access programs in a very real, genuine way, without it having to be something that has to be really pondered on and thought about. And through that, so through my coaching and consulting business, that I was doing networking, and I realized that there was nothing for Asian women. So Asian Women in Business came as a direct result of me launching my consultancy very early on.
I mean, wow, it's just amazing, isn't it? Because you just stayed true to your culture and your community, didn't you? You know, it sounds like you were ahead of the curve in terms of getting these skills, you know, bringing them with you rather than leaving them behind and adapting to a different sort of culture, I suppose, in terms of UK businesses and what they wanted. You're sort of really trailblazing. That's what I'm hearing is you know, you were ahead of them.
Yeah, and it was I mean, you know, if you're working for organizations that are dynamic, that have that are very commercial, so they are looking for a competitive advantage, which obviously the organizations that I was working for, that's what they're commercial corporate organizations, and they are open-minded enough to explore, well, how are we going to get this competitive advantage? How do we, so working at Coca-Cola, you know, how do we make sure it's Coca-Cola and not Pepsi-Cola or any other soft brand? And it's always the people, always, because what happens is your competitor can mimic your advertising, they can mimic your marketing, they can mimic your production, they can, there's a lot of imitation that can go in. But if you have the right people and you create the right environment and the right culture for them to thrive, they cannot mimic that. And that's what we were doing. You know, we were doing 15 years ago, and I was seeing the impact. And one of the things that I was seeing, though, also was I had access to all this amazing development tools, all these amazing conferences and workshops and events. And I was going to these events and I would look around the room, Amantha, and I just wouldn't see women that looked like me.
No.
And I just remember feeling like, where are, I went to university with very bright, capable South Asian women. Where are they? Why aren't they in this room? And I had to do a lot of unpacking and understanding that there are things that are intrinsic to our culture as South Asian women. Our culture is very much a patriarchal culture. There's a reverence to authority, to hierarchy. We are taught to behave in a certain way, to be respectful, which serves us in our community. But when you are then in a corporate environment where you have to advocate for yourself, where you have to champion for yourself, where you have to raise your hand and you have to speak up at meetings, my culture and my upbringing went directly against, and that was a period of a lot of turmoil for me, because I was unpacking a lot of the social conditioning, a lot of the limiting beliefs that I had grown up with, because they were in direct conflict with what I was learning in the corporate world and how you needed to get ahead in the corporate world. And I realized one day the penny just dropped for me, and I thought more women from my community need to understand this. They need to understand that it's not just about keep your head down and work hard and you'll get ahead, because that's what we're taught. There are other power dynamics at play. There are other things, there are softer skills at play that we need to develop. And we're not taught. We're not taught these things. And I just, it was one of those moments where I just thought, well, what are you going to do about it? And I thought, well, this is what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to create an organisation, and we're going to champion each other, and we're going to show each other what's possible. And I'm going to teach these skills to show women what they need to do to get ahead in their personal life, in their professional life, in their entrepreneurial life.
And that's it, isn't it, Rupinder? That's the secret. And it is almost a secret because we don't know about it. And you're doing a fantastic job of getting it out there. But it's almost as though it's exhausting, isn't it, to be these multiple people in one body, trying to be the person that serves your community, trying to be a businesswoman, trying to be, we're both mums, trying to be all those things. But actually, if you can do it authentically and in a way that is championed by other women and you all believe in each other, it's wonderful, isn't it? So yeah, I salute you, because it's I resonate a lot of that. My mum's Sri Lankan, I've got an Irish father. There's lots of culture clashes right there, and trying to navigate your way through and be part of a wider community that I grew up in. It's hard. There are a lot of conflicting messages, and you're absolutely right. So yeah, we need you, Rupinder. We absolutely do. So what would be, it's very clear to me you have a purpose and you're very aligned with that purpose, and you revolve everything around that. What values would you say, if you could pick 3 values that you think inform that purpose and the way that you conduct your business life, what would they be?
So the first thing for me is integrity, and being absolutely true to honesty and justice, but and building that in. So being known to have integrity, for my business to be known to have integrity. And that is super important for many reasons. Personal values. I think the world of coaching, as we know, is not regulated as the world of, psychotherapy or counselling. And I have been bitten at various points by coaches who promise the world and then don't deliver, who are very much in it for what they can get out of it. And I remember, that happened quite early on, actually, when I launched AWMB and I was in my coaching. And initially it was that bit of where your heart just sinks, and you feel a sense of betrayal and a sense of injustice. But also there's a powerful lesson in there, because it absolutely confirmed to me how I want to conduct myself and how I want to make sure that, what am I known for? What is my business known for? What is the legacy that I'm going to leave behind? And integrity is paramount to that. So, you know, and that we demonstrate that by saying, I would never advocate any of my programs, my workshop, my program, my monthly membership, if it wasn't the right thing. If it wasn't the right thing for the woman to do, I would not advocate it. I would not sell it. I would not say to join it. And I know I've turned people away because I know it's not the right thing for them. And I've recommended other coaches to them. I've recommended other people that they can turn to for support. So that's been that has to have been at the very top of what I do. And you know, we touched on briefly before about the fact that I'm a woman of faith, and a very visible faith. I'm a Sikh. I'm a practicing Sikh. And one thing I'm very, very conscious of, Amantha, in my personal and professional life, is that I'm a representation of my faith. I'm a representation of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, who founded Sikhism 550 years ago. And you know, I never want anyone to think badly of my faith, of my guru, of my creator, because of an experience they've had with me. So I wear, you know, my appearance, the way I look, I take all of that very, very seriously in terms of the experience that I want people to leave people with, and integrity is at the top of that. And then there's a couple of others that I would say is authenticity. We talked about that. Just being my authentic self, bringing my whole self to everything that I'm doing. And I couldn't do that before. You know, 10 years ago, I had my work self, my family self, my friend self. And some of that is confidence and self-belief, and really as women stepping into that and really knowing who we are. I turned 39 this year, and my 30s have been such a pivotal year, especially the last 4 years, of really knowing who am I, what are my values, what do I stand for, what will I tolerate, what will I push back on, and the first thing when people meet me, the first thing they say is, oh my God, you're exactly the same as you are on social media, you're exactly the same as you are on your blogs, and that's brilliant, because that's who I am. And I say thank you, because that's a compliment, and it shows that I'm in alignment with who I am. And that's everything, Amantha. It's the wonderful stuff that you see. It's also you know, the geeky stuff. I'm a Harry Potter fan. I love sci-fi. I embrace that. Everyone knows that about me. I'm a mum. Everyone knows I've got kids. I honor this season of the lifetime that I'm in now. And so I do things like, when people want to have calls, I tell them these are the only times I can do it, because my son is napping, and I don't compromise on my time with my children. And if that doesn't work, that's absolutely fine. I understand that and respect that. So being really true to those values. And then the last one that I have is something that I have held true to for the last 10 years, and I've known about it, is collaboration over competition. I don't believe in competition. I don't believe and buy into this scarcity mindset that lots of people have, and lots of people from the South Asian community have, for very, very good reason. You know, there's a very good reason we have a scarcity mindset in our community. When we look back at our roots, we look at colonialism, we look at the 1947 partition of the subcontinent of India or Pakistan, the fact that, you know, millions of people had to leave their homes and their lands with nothing. When we look at, you know, a lot of the South Asian community then back who moved to Uganda, who had to leave Uganda, they left with nothing. And so there is this thing in our community about accumulation of keeping wealth, keeping ideas, keeping contacts, keeping connections to ourselves. And that builds mistrust, it builds this competition, it builds this bitterness and this comparison. I do not subscribe to that. I don't believe that. I believe that we are much stronger when we collaborate. We are much stronger when we open up our hearts, we open up our connections, we open up our resources to each other. We're able to do things quicker, faster, more effectively, more efficiently. So I'm always open to collaborating. I always, you know, I say women who are part of our community, my network is your network, my community, my contact. How can I help you? How can I serve you? How can I help you get to where you want to get to? What do you need from this network in order to do that? And sometimes it's little things. It's, you know, an encouraging word, it's sharing a post, it's leaving a comment, and sometimes it's saying, actually, I really need a mentor, can you help me, this is the area I want to get to, can you help me facilitate that? And I love doing that. And once you do that, there's a ripple effect. Once I've done that for someone else, they pay it forward, they do it for someone else, and they pay it forward, and that's how we create this ripple effect of collaboration.
I love all of that. Can you see me nodding throughout?
Yes.
Constantly. And that's it, isn't it? So many. I concur with every single thing that you said there, and the reason that I do is because, by definition, when you have support, you do grow in confidence, don't you? You know, so many people have said to me, well, why are you doing coaching conversations with coaches? Surely that's limiting your opportunities. And I'm like, no, it's not limiting my opportunities, is it? It's maximizing on opportunities, because I want to learn as much as I can possibly learn. And like you, my purpose is, if I can help someone else's life be a little bit better, like you said, you know, you're that light, you know, you're achieving your purpose anyway. Why wouldn't you bring people with you? Because it can be lonely if you don't, you know, and bringing those people, it's so wonderful. And your values support that. And that lovely generosity and collaboration then gives other people the confidence to do the same. And, you know, we can't allow ourselves to think that one step won't make a difference, because it absolutely will. So that is wonderful. So those sound like great values. So springboarding from that, then you obviously have soaked up a lot of good advice, and you've taken a lot of learning from all the experiences you've had in your life, good, bad, and indifferent. If you were, and I'm going to, you know, this is the absolute question, is, you know, if you were to pick the best bit of advice you've ever had, what would it be?
Oh, wow. There's been so much, and I've just been blessed with so many great mentors and coaches and experiences and life. But through it all, the best advice I've had, and the one thing I say to my ladies and my community, is be you. Be yourself. Own who you are. Step into that authenticity, and share it. Share all of it, and you will, you know, the impact of that is people connect with you. You come across as being more human and likable and approachable. But also, you know, we're just all of us are unique. Everyone, I have coaches in my community, and they deliver sessions, and people say to me, oh, I didn't think you would accept it. And I said, no, this is brilliant, because first of all, we need more women, and we need more South Asian women doing this work. And actually, it's not, and not all coaches are the same. Not everyone has the same style. Not everyone has the same, and not everyone will have the same sense of connection. So the people that are drawn to me will be drawn to me. The people that are drawn to you will be drawn to you, and that's it. So if we come at it with an open heart, and as you said, just generosity and goodwill, and by being myself, oh, it's just so much easier, Amantha. And that's the advice I had for something that my coach said to me. Be yourself. It's so much easier. You're not having to hide part of yourself. You're not having to, you know, bury things. You don't have to. There's no sense of discomfort. There's no sense. And I just know then, if people want to connect with me, it's not because of something I've put out. It's not because of a facade. It's not because I've you know, had to polish myself. I've been myself. So do that. Own yourself. Own who you are. Own your experiences. Own everything that's led you to this point, and keep sharing that.
And that's so true. I read one of your posts yesterday, so just to say again, I'd encourage people to look you up on social media, because you write so honestly, and you put a post out yesterday that just touched me, you know. And there's a lot to get through on LinkedIn, isn't there, if you spend time on there? But it's when you have those moments that people touch you spiritually and emotionally, and have an on point message, that you just go, wow. And you do that.
Yeah.
You do that a lot. So that's fantastic. So obviously, as we bring all of you together and we see you in your whole self, and by the way, I would just like to say, I haven't always been the person I felt authentically comfortable to be. And I would say, I'm 10 years older than you, Rupinder. So I'm in my about to be in my 49th year. And I really wish, you know, if I could turn back the clock a little bit and adjust a small part of myself, it would have been that, to be authentically me and to not care if I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I might be. I might not be, and that's okay too, because there's enough of us around for it to be all right. So I would really, if anyone is watching this, you know, just embrace it. And if it feels a bit uncomfortable, still embrace it and keep going with it, and look out for people like Rupinder who will encourage you. So
I mean, what I would just say to that as well is, the turning point for me was I read this incredible book by Bronnie Ware, the 5 Regrets of the Dying. So she was a palliative nurse, and I don't know if you read this, but it's incredible.
No.
She was a palliative nurse, so end of life care. And so she had a really unique experience with people understanding death, and so she started speaking and, you know, asking people, what are your regrets? What do you wish that you had done? And the number one regret was that I didn't live a life that was authentic to me. And I remember reading that, and it's still now, it's just giving me goosebumps.
Tingle.
I just remember thinking, I don't want to get to my deathbed and think I've lived my life for other people, for community, I wasn't myself. I had to hide parts of myself. I couldn't be true to myself. And I just remember thinking, no, that's going to stop. That is absolutely going to stop. I'm going to be fully authentic to myself. And I get things, you know, not everything hits the mark for everyone. I sometimes get comments on various posts. I get messages that aren't appreciative. Let's just put it like that aren't appreciative of my views or my posts. But here's the thing: when you're authentic and you know who you are, you stand by your truth. I stand by my truth. I stand by my experiences because it's mine. And if you don't, if that doesn't, that's absolutely fine. You're welcome to unfollow, unclick. You're welcome to never see my stuff ever again, and that's absolutely fine. I have made peace with that, because it's not always going to, like you said, not everyone's going to like you. And as women, we need to start to accept that and say it's okay.
Absolutely, and yes, and it's not required to try and please everyone, is it? You know, I think that's really such an important message you give there, Rupinder, and because we're talking about coaching and we've got quite a lot of experience between the two of us, I think it's always quite nice for amazing coaches like yourself to actually be able to say, if there's a myth out there about coaching that you would want to dispel today, what would be the myth that you would want to dispel about coaching?
Oh, I have a few.
Oh, sure okay. Yeah, quite a few. But it's not about me, it's about you.
The first thing I would say is, and I've seen this happen quite a lot in the pandemic recently as well, which is, with a lot of love and respect and regard, not everyone can be a coach. And I'm seeing this thing now where people are, and particularly women, I hate to say, but they are, perhaps they've gone through an experience, perhaps they've come out, perhaps they advise and guide other people, that they feel and they can kind of attach the coach label to themselves. And it goes back to my value of integrity and being really mindful of the work, the commitment, the commitment that we have to put in ourselves as coaches, the commitment to excellence, the commitment to keep practicing, the commitment to honouring our craft, and that's one of the things. Not everyone can be a coach, and we need to start. I think we need to start speaking about this a little bit more in our industry, around the fact that, you know, we need to start looking for accreditations. We need to start looking and speaking. You know, and I would just say to people, if you're looking for a coach, ask them. Ask, what are your qualifications? What's your accreditation? Where did you train? How many coaching hours have you demonstrated? Because I feel like people, if you're not qualified, if you haven't done the work, you could do a huge disservice, not to the client, to this industry. And there is a lot of it. There's a lot of mistrust, I think, with coaches, and I understand why, because there are people out there that are practicing that absolutely shouldn't be practicing. But unlike psychotherapy, unlike psychologists, we don't have to belong to a certain body. So that's one of the things I would just say, that not everyone can be a coach, and not everyone is a good coach. But if you're looking for a coach, and if you've not had a great experience, keep looking. I've gone through several coaches myself, and it's not necessarily because of the coach either. Maybe it's because of where I'm at in terms of, as I've evolved and I've learned, I've outgrown certain coaches, and then I'm looking for the next level of coach as well. So keep looking, keep exploring, but keep asking the questions. And I really do want to get that word out, that people need to be asking the questions around what makes you a coach? How did you get into coaching? What are your qualifications? What are your accreditations? Because not everyone does the work. And those of you who are coaches, if you haven't done it, I think there has to be a point where we look ourselves in the mirror and just say, if we believe, so I believe in this profession, I believe in HR, and that's why I undertook, I've got a master's in human resources. I belong to all the relevant bodies. I took on all the continued professional development that I needed to in that area. I have absolutely done the same in my coaching profession as well. Because if you believe in this, if you believe in the tools, you believe in the modality, you believe in the profession, we need to demonstrate that by showing up, doing the accreditation, showing the work, demonstrating that we have what it takes to be a coach.
I completely agree. I find it frightening, particularly as a result of the lockdown situation.
Yes.
Have you noticed that? The number of people who are saying, I'm a coach, I can help you, and you sort of look back or look a little bit deeper, and there's actually no coaching background whatsoever, or they've had a few sessions at work, and then that informs this idea that they can become a coach. No, I'm very much with you, Rupinder, because I think actually it might not be the first thing that people ask, but it definitely should be in there as a part of the conversation. And definitely, I'm sure most coaches out there, when they do an initial consultation with people, should, if they're not, definitely be covering that off to sort of talk about their experience, how many coaching hours, the type of coach they are, the type of coach they're not. I find myself, I often say that, this is the type of coach I am, and this is the type of coach I'm not. So if you're looking for the stuff in the not, that's not me. But you know what? I can definitely put you in touch with people who will do that. And it's that confidence and integrity piece, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm not right for you for that, but keep me in mind for the things that I've just told you. So
wonderful.
Yeah. So I really agree. That's really sage advice, actually. So I like to ask this question. This is my favourite question that I ask people when they come for dinner, or my friends. I say, right, okay, because it just tells me so much about them. So I'm going to ask it to you if it's okay, which is, if you could have dinner with 3 people who are either dead, alive, or just someone who's inspired you, who would your 3 people that you could invite for dinner? You could totally indulge yourself. Who would you invite, and why?
I love this question. And why only 3?
I know, I'm sorry. It's a lunch. It's a light lunch. Yeah, no, it's a light lunch they're coming for.
I want to like a banquet or a feast or everyone there. So I would say 2 people that immediately came to mind, because I've just recently read their work and I was just reminded how powerful they are. So Michelle Obama, I just read her autobiography, and then that was turned into Becoming, and it was turned into a Netflix a documentary as well. I'm just so fascinated. I just think she's got such a unique viewpoint into history, and she covers some of this in her biography. But you just really want to know, what was that really like? What was it really like when you had to hand over to Trump? What was it like? What was it like being the first Black family in the White House? And she does cover that, but in her biography, and it's just so powerful. Her story is so powerful and testament to feminism and her work ethic and what her parents were able to do for her, the values that her parents instilled in her. And I love how she's paying it forward. I love what she's doing in terms of having conversations with the next generation. I love the stuff that she's done when she's come into the UK and she's gone into girls' schools and girls' schools in very deprived areas to show them what is possible. I just think she would be fascinating. So in the next one, who biography I've just finished reading is Alicia Keys. I've always loved her music. So that's the other thing, right? So she could sing to us. How wonderful!
Yeah,
I've
great.
Always loved, Girl on Fire. Girl on Fire is my anthem. It's my track. It's what I put into when I want to get into peak state. And we'll put it on in the kitchen and have a boogie. And my daughter, like everyone, we love belting it out. But her I don't think she's called it a biography. Actually, it's a memoir. Of some of the lessons that she has learned is fascinating. I cannot recommend this book enough.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, so Alicia Keys, more myself, and she talks so beautifully. So I say talks because I got it on Kindle and I got it on Audible. And that's the other thing I always say: if you're going to read something, get it on Audible, particularly if it's narrated by the author. So Michelle Obama narrates her book. It's like she's talking to you. Alicia Keys narrates her book, and at the beginning of each chapter, she has some of her best friends who are like Oprah Winfrey, to open up the chapter, and they read their section. So it's just so powerful and moving about how she stepped into her authenticity, how at the peak of her career, so she had this incredible platinum debut selling album. She was doing these sellout tours. She was very, very young. She could see she was losing herself. And in amongst all of this, she found the courage and the power to say, I need to step off this train. I need time for myself. And she took herself off to Egypt for 3 weeks. And everyone around her was just freaking out and was just like, what are you doing? You're at the pinnacle, we need to keep going. And she was like, no, I need to step out. And some of the self-reflection and some of the lessons that she unpacks during this journey of just sitting with herself, it's just so moving and so powerful. And the thing, I've recommended this book to so many people, and the thing that comes out of it for me is, again, goes back to what we've been talking about, that when women step into themselves and we step into our divine feminine power, when we hush and the voices that are around us, we know what is of service to ourselves. So I would just love to touch and feel her. She's one of these people that you want her to be your BFF. She's just incredible. So those two for sure.
Yeah.
And then my third person would be a Sikh warrior of my faith, a woman called Mai Bhagal. And so she was a Sikh woman, and was at the time of our 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji. He fought incredible battles with the Mughals at the time. It was a battle of power, of certain faiths wanted to dominate, and there was an incredible amount of injustice happening. So he stood firm on that, and it was a battle. It was a time of great hardship for his soldiers, for his followers, for Sikhs. And it was a time when many chose to desert him, and for reasons, there was hunger. They weren't. There was no food accessible. There was no water accessible, and they lost sight of the greater cause. They lost sight of what they were fighting for. So they returned to their homes, and she was the warrior. She was the woman at this point, 400 years ago, who stood up and said to the men, you've done a great disservice to our guru, to our creator, to our cause, to humanity. We cannot do this. You need to go back. We need to go back. And what she did was she rounded up the troops and brought them back to our guru. And she fought in battle with them and demonstrated just an incredible amount of courage, of bravery. And for me, so I have a deep connection with this lineage and ancestry. And when you come into my home, it's one of the very first portraits you see is of this incredible woman. And whenever, Amantha, I have a moment of just wavering or just uncertainty or just, in that moment, I channel her. I go back to her spirit. I go back to that image and say, how did you do it? How were you brave enough to stand up for what was right in the face of such adversity, knowing that death was inevitable, going into the battle and demonstrating, what we as women could do. I talk to her all the time as a spiritual guide and my ancestor, but to be able to really have that conversation, that would just fill me with, just so much.
That's a wonderful story, and when we all need inspiration, don't we, and a guiding light. I mean, you're a guiding light for so many people. The fact that you have your own guiding light and something you can relate to is so powerful, isn't it? That's a wonderful story. I've never heard that story, but I won't ever forget it. That's amazing. So wow, a trio of power ladies.
Yeah, and it would have to be women.
Of course they are. Well, I've got Michelle Obama's. I'm actually now toying with that idea. I love that thing about Audible. I mean, I get through books so much better when I've got them in the car. I mean, I haven't been in the car for quite some time, but yeah, I love that whole Audible. You do feel like you've got a personal audience with them, don't you?
Absolutely. It's such a treat. It's so incredible. They are so accessible to us, and to hear it in their own words is so powerful. I love reading. We have books. I love real books. I love touching and feeling them. So I do this thing which my husband thinks is nuts, which is if I love a book, I have to have the hardcover. I have to have the book. I love it on Audible because it's just so beautiful. You tap into that energy and you can listen back. But I do love it on Kindle as well. So in lockdown, I have spent hundreds on Amazon and Audible and Kindle and books. But it's what sustained me. It's like you said, how do we fill our own cup? And for me, it's always been reading. It's been tapping into these stories and using those moments of inspiration for myself.
And that's it, isn't it, Rupinder? Because although the time span, in life is changing, the stories have a commonality to them, don't they? That actually, struggle, self-belief, these have been going on since the beginning of time. And for us women, we are making progress. Maybe we're not making it as fast as we would like, but we are making progress. And so for our soul sisters out there who continue to inspire us, it helps us with our cause, doesn't it? To keep moving forward, to keep believing, to keep, putting those demons and doubts to one side and just keep going forward. So I absolutely love that. Can we just make sure we don't book those ladies on the same date that I'm having my lunch, okay?
Well, you're going to be there, clearly.
Of course, for our light buffet lunch. You know what? I think your idea was better. Maybe we need to have a bigger crowd and we'll just have a whole big on banquet. So I've only got one more question to ask you. I could talk to you for forever, quite literally. But I suppose coming back to your business, which is the powerhouse and the bit that gets the best of you, apart from your beautiful family, where you put your energy and where you're making a difference. What do you imagine your business being like in the next 10 years? I mean, when you look out into this, as we encourage our clients to do, to look into the future, what do you see your business looking like in the next 10 years, Rupinder?
So, I mean, I've been blown away with what's happened in the last 18 months. And really, the last 18 months has been a period of great growth and expansion and impact. And that's the word that I always come back to, is in the next 10 years, is the impact that Asian women in business can have. Because what gets me, and it's the same for you and other coaches, is the stories of transformation, is the words, the feedback that comes in when women have been to the workshop or on the program or are part of the Inspire Club, is the feedback they are telling me, they are giving me, they are, they're telling me this is where I was and this is where I am now. It is incredible. And that's what I want to do for more women. I want more women to understand their potential, to understand that they can be part of a community that is encouraging, that is about collaboration, which enables them to have an impact. And then it's that ripple impact that we've talked about. So in the next 10 years, I see further growth, I see expansion, I see more global impact, I see more women joining our community. And I just see, the stories that I'm hearing now and that I'll be sharing in the coming weeks and months, I want more stories like that. I want more women to say, because this is the reason I'm so passionate. When you make a difference on a woman's life, when a woman is empowered, when a woman feels confident and has self-belief and has a network and a community, that impact isn't just for her alone, it's for her family, it's for her children, it's for her nephews, her nieces, it's for the next generation that comes along. And this is how we break some of the generational curses, we break some of the things that have held us back for generations. We do it by women. And that's what I'm keen to do, is to continue to grow and expand that impact and that circle of influence that our incredible women have.
Well, when you hear it said like that, you sort of think there's no point. It's a hollow gesture to wish you luck, Rupinder, because it's just going to happen, isn't it? I just want to watch you and watch the continued journey and the success and that power and purpose and belief that you bring to your community and to all those women who've yet to discover you. When they do, my goodness, they're gonna tap into their own potential, aren't they? And so long may it continue, Rupinder. So
thank you.
Sadly, this interview is drawing to a close, but from me to you, it's been an absolute pleasure having you as a guest today. Could you tell everyone, because I know people watching this will want to get more of you, so what is the best way for people to access your content, to maybe be in touch with you? What would be the best way for them to get to know you more?
Thank you. Yeah, sure. So our website is asianwomenmeanbusiness.com, and on there you'll find lots of inspiration articles, posts, you'll find contact details. I'm most active on LinkedIn. I love that platform. So I'm Rupinder Kaur, AWMB. But as you said, Amantha, you can't miss me.
no,
the way I look and the colour and my posts. And I'm always I love connecting with people. I welcome connections. So yeah, reach out and connect. I would love that.
Well, from me to you again, thank you so much for giving me your time. It's just been the best finish to a week. And I hope we have more conversations, because it would be very, very lovely to be in touch with you. So for the moment, Rupinder, thank you very much. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Amantha.